Welcome to Profound Shifts. I am your host, Nate Prince. In pursuit of growth for the mind, body, and soul, we talk to humanity's pioneers, game changers, healers, and disruptors to help you make the profound shifts in your life that lead to peace, joy, freedom, and abundance. Are you ready for a life of growth? In today's episode, we get to talk with Colter Smith, who's been leading meditation and breathwork groups since 2009. We dive deep into deep meditative experiences, creating that mind, heart, and body connection, making personal transformation inside your life, and how to dive deep and transform that emotional pain. So get ready, sit back, relax. Let's dive into the episode right now. Okay, so last time we were on, we talked about real deep into breath work, ego dissolution. We talked about, I remember where we finished off was with spiritual bypassing. And then now, I think what we want to dive into is the spiritual path and being able to raise your vibration or create or manifest the type of life that you want. And there's so much information out there, like anybody from Tony Robbins and what's the dude on it?
Aubrey Marcus.
Aubrey Marcus. Yeah, I love listening to his podcast because he's heavily into shamanic practices, and he's totally open about his journey, facing fears. And he says going through each one of those journeys and facing his heavy fears is what really led him to being able to expand. Each time you face those fears, you expand. And I think that through breath work, you can experience something similar. And you were telling me yesterday when we were talking that in a recent breathwork session, you had some real heavy realizations. Can you talk about some of that?
So the realization was just doing breathwork and intense meditation and realizing that everything is vibration. We're talking everything. Your feelings, your sensations, all of it is basically in this mega supercomputer. That's the best way I can describe it, where we're all connected through thoughts, through emotions, through feelings, through sensations, and everything is a vibration. So it's the whole idea of whatever vibe you put out, you attract, that type of thing. It's law of attraction times infinity, that you get your vibration up to this particular level, then this happens, or it's down here and this happens, and it's all synchronistic and it's all flowing. And so what I was feeling was I was trying to raise my energy, through my mind, through my feelings, where I've done meditation for so long where you can feel yourself intensely, you can feel the vibrations. And I was trying to get myself up to this frequency to where I was just purely feeling and sensing on a deeper level. And then it felt like I was plugged into the supercomputer of God. if that makes sense to you. It felt like God was the greatest supercomputer you could ever imagine, and it had infinite possibilities of ways of experiencing itself. I don't know if that makes sense, but experiencing itself. And you were plugged into this, and it was through your free will, through your vibration, where you could tap into this frequency, tap into that frequency, and feel this and not feel that. And it's completely your choice. You just tap and plug into what circuit board in the computer system you want to have and what experience you want to have. And then it's infinite realities and infinite creation have through this God computer. That's how it felt. It was incredible.
So I'm curious, when you plugged into this and you were having these types of realizations, for the listeners out there, when you're in this space, I mean, for people who have done intense meditations or had non-ordinary experiences, they probably kind of have a grasp, but for everybody else, when you're tapped into this, it's not just conscious. It's not like you're just thinking about it, or you actually it's an internal experience. What were you feeling specifically when you were in that place?
You feel a lot of dissolution in a way, dissolving. You feel that the body is not as tight as it normally is. You kind of release the body a little bit. The mind expands. You usually go from your left brain thinking analytical mind and the monkey mind to the right brain imagination. So you're seeing more, whether it's just in your mind or whatnot. You start to like just see colors and sensations, and you're in that imaginary world, and then the releases its grip, and then all of a sudden, if you're sensitive, like I'm very sensitive when I meditate, you can feel the waves and you can feel the feelings and emotions. You can feel your heartbeat, but on like different level. It feels so much deeper. Like everything just feels deeper, more connected. That's why meditation is so huge, to drop into your own frequency and your own vibration. Because realize, and what I've come to find out is, we're not vibrating in a perfect resonance at all times. So like the brain's vibrating a certain way through thoughts, and then maybe it's not fully connected to the heart, and the heart's not fully vibrating with the mind, with the potentially with the ego and the intuition. And meditation, like oming or whatever, it brings you to this vibrational resonance. So when you do that, you're just feeling so much, and you're feeling connected. You're feeling like I feel a river of energy and waves sometimes, and flow. So with breath work, you get that going too, and it's just, you feel so alive. You feel like you can feel more, sense more, everything. It's like you're more alive.
So when people are trying to like they're trying to achieve a certain state, right? So like everybody has dreams that they want to accomplish, everybody has missions, they have things that they want to do with their lives. And like when we're living inside the day-to-day soup of life, there's a lot of people that forget about like that we are in control, like we are able to manage our emotional states. You know, like things happen and they can send us for a little bit of a like if you're in a boat and it kind of starts rocking a little bit. But managing our emotional states or managing our vibrational states, you talked about the mind and the heart connection. What is it that people can do to help establish or regain that, like that mind or that brain heart connection?
Yeah, there's a lot. Have you ever been interested into HeartMath Institute, and how they're realizing that the heart has its own frequency, and that the vibrational wavelength, or whatever you want to call it, of the heart will go up to like 5,000 feet, to where people can feel your heart. Have you ever gotten into this? It's absolutely incredible. And
Definitely.
the bar has its own vibration. You know, you can walk into a room and you can feel people's hearts, their vibration for 10, 15 feet or whatever. But the mind sometimes has its own agenda, especially if you're in the ego, if you're in pain body. You've never heard of that. Eckhart Tolle made it pretty famous, of when you're in the defense of the ego and don't want to feel pain, so the body fights it and the mind fights it. Well, if the heart wants love or whatever, and the mind doesn't want to feel hurt, then there's a contradiction. Or the let's say the mind wants to love, but the heart has been hurt in a past relationship, there's a contradiction. I was taught years ago to do what's called relax, drop, surrender, and to realize that when you're in the headspace, you're stuck in the I thought, the I need this, I don't deserve love, something of that nature. In relax, drop, surrender into the heart. The heart kind of, like, once you get into that through meditation, through breath work, through whatever, the heart kind of will take over if you allow it. The heart will allow you to feel. It's a gateway into your emotional guidance system. It's a gateway into the deeper aspects of yourself, and then the brain will kind of like resonate to that. So some people will meditate and just have like an elevator drop from their head to the heart. Some people just breathe into their head, drop into their heart. It's just all about having this harmony within yourself, to where usually the heart area will be the one in charge, I guess is the right way to turn it. So then the ego can calm itself down. You can go back into an equilibrium state, and then everything flows. It's called vibrational resonance. So this goes into manifestation, and being in vibrational alignment towards what you want in your life. What a lot of people don't realize is you can have one thought in a mind that says, I want A, but the heart says B, your intuition says C, and your pain body says D, and the universe is like, well, I can't help you. You're not in alignment. You're not even aligning with yourself. Because usually what people fight themselves. That's what a lot of people don't realize. You read The Power of Now, right, Nate?
You know, I know it's like one of the classics that everybody on a path of understanding and self-development should probably read. And I have not. It's one of those ones that I know I have to.
It's a must. It's a must read. But Eckhart Tolle said when he was very suicidal in the first part of the book, he had this thought that said, I cannot live with myself. And he goes, wait, maybe there's two of me. Is there two of me? And that became this huge, profound shift of enlightenment for him, an awakening of going, there's different parts of me. So you go really deep and you say, and people realize that there's this I thought that says, I am Nate Prince, I am Colter Smith, I am XYZ, whatever the case may be, and you define your reality. Defining your reality is beautiful to make sense of the world, to function, but it actually will hinder you in the terms of being free-flowing, being open and accepting, not having cognitive dissonance, doing all that stuff. And anything that tries to take away from what you think you are is usually perceived as a threat. So in spirituality, in being a better person, in self-development, it's really looking at those aspects of self that says, is this serving me? Is this not? A lot of people don't do that. They go into, I'm always going to be this way, or whatever the case may be, and they don't allow themselves to grow. The internal understanding of yourself is so massive to realize, who am I? What am I truly? Am I really my thoughts? Am I really this situation? Am I really this emotion? That's when true profound shifts and true understandings happen, when you realize that potentially you are none of that, that you are, maybe just love, maybe just energy, maybe just something of a greater nature. And like I said in my original example of just plugging into the computer system, you're just free flowing with God, with the universe, with everything. Maybe that's it. But a lot of people stop themselves and put themselves in a box because of their conditioning. That can be very purple. Do you remember when we talked about the spiritual bypassing in the last podcast?
Yeah, definitely. That's where we finished off. So
that's kind of the example of that, is using spiritual practices to avoid facing unresolved issues. So it's the idea that you try to transcend the human condition and you try to go above things to not have a bad day, for instance. Be like, I'm not going to have a bad day. But maybe you need to feel the pain that something might have happened. Maybe you need to feel something that is very uncomfortable. It's a form of escapism and avoiding the darker side of painful states. So it's almost like the question is, what does healthy spirituality look like? What does healthy thinking look like to you? What does healthy practices look like to you? A lot of us will avoid certain situations and feelings and emotions in everything, through drugs, alcohol, through whatever, and it's chasing the high, whereas there's always work down to be done down below. It takes evaluation to self-improve.
Totally. So, something that you were talking about there when you mentioned, pain, and I was reading a book called The Untethered Soul, and one of the things that he talks about is, like, on this journey of basically freeing yourself, is that it's diving into pain that helps us attain freedom. It's like by letting yourself. So it's like I think there's a couple of different ways of looking at pain. There's one is where we totally avoid it, and he references like a splinter inside of your arm, and so the splinter inside your arm, it's like you totally, it's there. You could either pull it out, which would be brief and yet intensely painful, or you protect it. And then, so protecting that pain or protecting that emotional pain, we go through life and we have it covered up and we don't expose it to people. And so we have to create like this this way of operating in order not to touch the sliver that's inside of our arm, or this emotional pain. And so we create like this entire way of moving through life to accommodate the pain, to accommodate not touching the pain, which ultimately leads to more pain, and it's more focus on that area. And so it's like trying to, and I think that this is where it gets difficult for people, is because when they're trying to address it, let's say that people say, I know that I'm struggling in this area and I want to change it. They don't know, how do I dive into the pain? Like how do I even go there? Because well, it's difficult to address. So do you have any, like, based upon what you have seen working with people and all of your studies, what would you say to somebody who says, I am ready to face my pain, but I have absolutely no idea how?
Oh, geez, that is a ridiculously profound question. Oh my God. Okay, so it could be a lot, obviously. I'll reiterate what I've said before a little bit, where you got to have the right setting. You have to have the sacred space, and you have to be at a point in your life, in my opinion, that you're so ready for change and willing to rock the boat. As you go deeper and you find, for instance, mentors through podcasts or through books or whatever, you obviously can learn different tools and techniques. But what I've found is that there could be even more resistance, or you're just going to fight yourself more, and it can put you into a hole, especially for somebody that wants to heal. So they're looking for. I've noticed this in the past that people are looking for healing and healing and healing. Well, the universe is going to say, I'm going to give you infinite ways to heal. So it's really difficult to not go deep into yourself and really, try to do everything all at once. Finding the vibration that says that you're okay no matter what might potentially be huge, and you're just loving yourself and being vulnerable and not judging. I think not judging is huge, because it goes back to that I thought of, if you can transcend your consciousness and transcend the human condition. One of the biggest things is you can look down on yourself. You can look above from a greater picture with sympathy, with emotion that is of love, a loving nature. What a lot of people do is they just beat themselves up, and it's a perfectionism thing. It's a, I can't get past this thing in the past. I can't get off these drugs. I feel hopeless. So then it becomes victimization, becomes all that. If I could say one thing to people, is transcend your human nature and get to a higher place where you are looking at yourself from a loving standpoint that doesn't judge. And it goes back to the whole Eckhart Tolle, I cannot live with myself. Hey, maybe there's two of you. And guess what? This came up a few times in the last couple of weeks. I was in a meditation. It was so wonderful. And I realized that I am my best friend, and I am my best cheerleader, and I can cheer myself on, because there are aspects of self and aspects of me that are absolutely not perfect, and they're conditioned from the past, from my parents, from you name it, that maybe I'm not proud of, maybe it doesn't serve me fully, but I can get to a state at times that I can look at myself with empathy, and I can feel that this aspect of myself is not in perfect alignment, and it's okay, because a greater aspect of myself is, and I'm always just trying to learn and grow, transcend the human emotions and the human conditions that don't serve me, get out of that pain body, out of the defenses of the ego, and to go to a greater state of love, harmony, whatever that is. But if you're stuck in victimization, you're stuck in, I don't know what to do, chances are you're just going to fight with yourself, and you're going to battle and have internal battles, and it could potentially be self-destructive. And that's when people go into full-on manic episodes, or have hit rock bottom moments, which sometimes are good and whatnot. But I would say transcend self, that you realize you are a multi being with multi personalities, and go into that higher state of love and wisdom, and be your best friend. Then the alignment can happen, and you'll be led to the right book, the right teacher. You'll be led to finding something or someone of a practice that really hits home. Um, that's the key to it all. It's transcend the consciousness that you're stuck at. The whole idea of was it Einstein or somebody says you can't find a solution, and that's in the same vibration that you're in. I think I ruined that quote, but it's like getting to a higher state so that you can see the greater picture. You
Yeah.
like that?
Oh, definitely. I think that you hit something really huge there when you said to transcend the self, or to transcend your human nature. So being able to look at yourself from a different perspective, because I think I'm probably just going to repeat about the same thing that you just said in a different way, is when we're looking through our own eyes into the world, and that's all that we see, and that's all that we can relate with. Our perspective is totally limited, and just like that Einstein quote that I'm not going to try to quote, like from that perspective, we can only get so deep into our own shit, and so to really be able to look at it from that other perspective, NLP technique is to literally, like during a meditation or with your eyes closed, is to basically, when you're in that state of meditation, is to remove your awareness, remove your consciousness from your body, so that you're looking at yourself like from a distance. And as you move away, imagine that there is somebody there who has unconditional love for you. A totally unconditional, pure love. That could be a child, that could be a significant other, it could be a parent, it could be a spiritual figure, it could be Jesus Christ or Allah or Buddha or universal awareness, it could be your higher self. Whatever it is, if you see that person or that entity there next to you, and you observe the way that entity is looking at your body, the way that their eyes are looking at you, their body posture, like what are they thinking? And then you put your awareness inside of that person or inside of that entity and feel what they are feeling for you. It's an extremely powerful tool that will give you an identification, a feeling, a true feeling of what pure self-awareness, pure self-acceptance can actually do for a person. And, like for somebody who's stuck in victimization and they're in self-destruct mode, I think that could be profoundly helpful.
Profoundly helpful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll
So,
give you a story. You want to hear a story?
oh, totally. Yes.
So 2 nights ago, I did a breath class, a newer one that was kind of all about releasing and letting go. And a guy came for the first time, and long story short, there was a lot to it. He had a very good experience, and he was talking to me later, saying that he could feel and hear his internal dialogue that was deeper than the what he called, I can't remember the exact words, but he called the um, basically conditioned ego. I forget the words he said. And he said, I heard myself talking, and I could feel the love that I was giving myself. And I could feel this internal energy, this internal frequency that was loving me. And and he goes, I realized it was me. And he was like legit almost gonna cry. And he stayed like an hour later, and we talked about just in-depth stuff. And I said, realize that this is a very profound shift. You tapped into that aspect of self that is loving, that is kind, that always has your back. And like I just was talking about, he felt that immensely in a breathwork class. So the point of the story is everyone has that. Everyone can transcend the consciousness that hurts them to the consciousness that helps them. And everyone can go into these awareness states, whether it's witnessing yourself, whether it's feeling yourself in a deeper state to where you're not going to beat yourself up. It's there for absolutely everyone, and there's unlimited tools to figure this out. And what I've heard from so much spiritual work and whatnot over the last decade is it's just putting the vibration out there. It's putting that intention and knowing that it's going to come, and the divine works in everything. So you're going to get what you need through music, and what you're going to need through a movie. You're going to get what you need from a friend that says something, because it's all a vibrational shift game. you're plugged into that supercomputer. And if you want to go a little bit different, you raise your vibration, you tap into different frequencies. Just like we said last time, the visible spectrum of humans is so small. There's so much going on that we can't perceive. And once we become this energy that's in that we realize is tapped into the matrix, that we can literally create our own realities and have infinite ways of understanding ourselves. Just like I was saying that God is the greatest supercomputer trying to understand itself, it's the same for us, to where it's infinite. We can do whatever we want once we're in that vibrational alignment, and once we found that deeper core aspect of self that will vibrate in harmony and resonance with all that you choose. Free will to its finest. It's everything you could ever imagine. And when you tap into those realities, you realize it is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well, yeah, I don't know how to add to that because what you said is so deep. And man. Well, it's just like so it kind of goes back to I brought this up. I was talking with an energy healer a while ago, and she was talking about basically how our thoughts, create that resonance or that vibration. And to dive deeper into it, there was that research that was done, and I can't remember the guy's name, but I think he was a Japanese scientist who looked into the frequencies of sound, vibration, thought with water, and he was able to show it through Emoto, yes. And so, like what you're talking about there, I mean, like it's such a deep philosophical concept, but it is also scientifically provable, or it's scientifically evident with today's technology and studies. And the unfortunate thing is that this scientific research is not talked about in mainstream. And so people aren't able to get in touch with, this reality that we are finding and discovering around ourselves. We're stuck with the old Newtonian physics. And so what you're talking about is it's provable, and I've heard you mention it with quantum physics. And that's something that I think that there needs to be a lot more awareness about, because as we understand deeper into quantum physics, and as it becomes more popular among people, we're going to see that that the world that you are talking about, creating that vibrational state and attracting the things into your life by raising that vibration, is a complete reality. And when your logical mind can catch up with that, the philosophy and the science, and those two come together, and then you're able to create that experience for yourself, like to where you logically know it, you have experienced it, you see and feel the synchronicities inside of your life. That's when things take off. Like that's when the journey just starts beginning. I remember the first time that you were talking about when you were looking at yourself in your experience, and you had the I don't know if it was a realization or the thought that I am my best friend. I remember the first time that I felt that real acceptance, like for myself, and it's a moment in my life that I will never forget, because when I truly felt that I accepted myself, it was like all of the illusion, all of the darkness, everything that around me that made me feel alone and not worthy, it's like it melted away. And I just I broke down, man. Like I was like bawling, because it was such a beautiful experience. And I would love for the people listening who haven't experienced that to have the opportunity to tap into that at least once in their life, because I think that if they were able to experience that I am my own best friend, and that I am worthy and I am accepted, if they were able to feel that and know that completely, like that's a transformational moment in a person's life. So,
the die before you die, we talked about last time. You're dying to everything that doesn't serve you, and you don't even have to consciously be aware of it. It just dissolves once you're in that frequency. It's beautiful.
Yes. So for people who want to be able to level up their frequency so that they can experience that. Like I know that I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but like what would be your first, like maybe 1 to 3 tips that you would say that they could implement in their lives today to start experiencing that?
All right, can I give you a long-winded precursor to that first that might help you
Yes,
understand a little bit? Okay,
drop
so
it.
I feel that you got to understand how, I don't know, use the right word, but how the universe works, how life works. I feel that there's kind of laws in a way, if you want to call it that. And once again, using semantics, you change your own wording. But we're everything has balance, everything has order, and quantum physics is this amazing thing that it's telling me that we can mind bend reality just because we are the observer. So a lot of it doesn't make sense to the finite mind, but at the same time, there are things where thoughts create reality. Okay, we know that attraction creates attraction. What we resist persists. You go down the list, there's clues. So that's the whole idea of being successful in life is find the clues and find out what people did code and go back into that matrix thing of the God particle and be in the right vibration so that you can be rich, you can be healthy, whatever it is, because people have cracked that code through thoughts, actions, you name it. I'm always reminded of the simple example of Tony Robbins in one of his Get the Edge videos that I listen to forever and ever. He's just like, okay, everyone, close your eyes, or look around the room. Look at everything that's blue. Look at everything that's blue, 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 blue. Okay, close your eyes. Now tell me everything that's brown. If you're like, oh, and it's just an extremely simple example of where you put your thoughts, where you put your focus is what you get. If you're like, oh shoot, I was focusing on blue. There's laws to the universe, and one of the laws to the universe is energy creates matter. So a thought is an energy wavelength, and a thought will actually vibrate outside of you. So if you go on the woo-woo side, people think you have like your own energy, your own aura, and people can feel that. It's not just woo-woo. It's people can feel vibes. You can walk into a room and you can feel like, oh, this person feels bad, this person feels good. It's very simple. We all have vibes. So going back to vibration, you feel yourself even deeper. You can feel those vibes and become empathic even more. So as it keeps going, the thoughts create the vibration. The vibration sends out the wavelength into the universe, into your perceived reality. And that's what some people have to believe. You have to first basically like take control and take ownership that you are the creator of your reality, for better or for worse, and realize that God, the universe, life is neutral. It gives you what you want. It's so loving that it's neutral. So you can say, what I don't want is this, and that's fine. What I do want is this, and it's fine. And then in the third dimensional reality, we have what's called the buffer of time. We have time-space continuum that it does not happen instantly sometimes, that sometimes all the old junk has to come out. So if you say to somebody, if you say to yourself, I want to be healthy and happy, but the last 3 years you have truly not felt healthy and happy. Well, what has to happen is all the negative beliefs, all the negative associations, all the negative conditioning has to be released and let go to the point where you can feel happy and healthy, and that might take time. So it's kind of like you're building up to your greatest self all the time. So it's patience and understanding that this takes a time to potentially get to your greatest self. I've heard I call it source coding or God sourcing. You're coding to your highest frequency, and then all the other stuff dissolves into a lower state to where you can transcend that and be your best self. Now I'm using kind of woo-woo words, but it's moving into your greatest aspects of self and allowing the thoughts to create the actions to create reality, and then the reality will actually come back to you. So it becomes an external into an internal, external, and it becomes a duality where you're moving in and out of awareness and realizing that, hey, I created this through thought. Hey, I created this through action. And oh, I'm only seeing that which I want to perceive. I'm only feeling that which I want to perceive. Then you realize you're in full control and full manifestation mode, and it's endless of what you can experience.
Yeah, and I think something else too that's important to mention is that you were talking about as you go through that. You need to drop all of the beliefs and all of these things in order to start moving into it. But the moment that you start putting effort in, the moment that you start putting your focus into creating this new reality for yourself, is the moment that you will start noticing change. Like it's not like you put effort in and you don't experience anything until the very end. It's one of those beautiful things, is that each time that you make a step, each time that you drop a negative, thought pattern, or each time you recognize an aspect of yourself and you're able to address it, like you experience a shift inside of your experience of life, or you experience a shift inside your life or your thought process. Like every time you're moving towards more wholeness, bringing more of your authentic self in, and it's a beautiful process. It's not something that you have to face pain, like you were talking about earlier, to go through it. But it's not like it's just pain. I mean, there are moments of pure bliss and beauty and excitement as you go through it. And so it's totally worth putting the effort in order to get there. That's just something I wanted to throw in there. Because like I was listening to you and I was thinking, man, that sounds like a lot of work at the same time. But I as I've gone through it, as we've all gone through it, I know I've definitely experienced moments, where I had to face something that I realized I had been ignoring for so long, and it was super painful. But when I was able to work through it and see it with compassion, I think that's one of the biggest things you said earlier about facing ourselves without judgment. When you're able to look at your actions, through that place of compassion, so maybe even by pulling your awareness out of your body again, like we were talking earlier, the way that you perceive your actions or responses or things you might feel guilty about or bad about completely changes. And when you're able to see an experience like that from the awareness and from that place of compassion, that's something that can hit you at a deep level. Like suddenly you see it from another direction, and it is a completely different experience.
Completely different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just the changing the vibration, changing who the observer is. You're getting into that higher aspect of self, and then being compassionate. That's truly all it is. And it's just like anything where it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't at all. It can be waking up to your best authentic self, or waking up to your I don't know what the right word is, enlightened state. It can be 100% beautiful beyond beautiful. It's just sometimes it can be painful. I met a spiritual teacher not too long ago, a few months ago, and he teaches people to get into these just beautiful meditative states that are extremely powerful. He does certain techniques, and he said that you'll go into different aspects of your body and mind and soul, and to where, let's say, for instance, you get to like such a beautiful state that the energy of depression, for instance, can just rise to the surface, and it will just dissolve itself and it will let it go. And he calls it peaceful depression, to where it feels like good in a way. It's almost like it's okay. You want to feel this without judgment, and just let it come up and release. Um, it's almost like the paradoxical unity of the Taoism, where do nothing but let nothing go undone. You're finding equilibrium and balance in absolutely everything, so you can create the harmony and eliminate the cognitive dissonance and eliminate all this stuff that doesn't put you in the right frequency. So you can just experience and be. So we're talking about being in the now and just being okay with where you're at right now. Then it goes a little bit deeper, is that once you realize that you're in control of your life, you're in vibrational harmony, your manifestation, then you'll get the synchronicities, and you'll realize that this is, I created this, and people that aren't serving you will just fall apart. They'll fall away. They won't be a part of you anymore. So it can be beautiful. In my opinion, everything in life is neutral. It can have a positive and negative, a light and a dark, that type of thing. So just living in that state of, even like Michael Tellinger was talking about in The Untethered Soul that you reference, surrender. Just surrender and know that everything will work itself out.
Ah,
Did you
yes.
read Did you read the second book of his, The Surrender Experiment?
No, I haven't.
That one's even better.
Beautiful.
He gives full faith in God, the universe. Like, we're talking full faith, and he surrendered to everything, and his life worked out incredibly.
Well, yeah, and something that I really like about, like what he talks about in that, and I think it's what you've been talking about exactly, and that's being able to pull yourself away and knowing that who you are is not just your body or your name. And the way that he explained that in the beginning of the book, like who are you? That the most important question that you can be asking yourself is, who am I? Um, and when I think about that, he talks about, like, if you lose your arm, well, or are you in your arm? Or every 7 years, every cell inside of our body is replaced. So 7 years ago, you are a completely different body today than you were 7 years ago. So when I think about that, my mind goes right into a story that Wayne Dyer talks about, and that's about his grandmother when she passed. When she went into the hospital, she was 98 pounds. And when she passed away and she was no longer inside of her body, she was still 98 pounds. So what was it that left? Anyway, that's such a profound question when you really start asking yourself and digging deep into who am I. I think, if I were to go back and look over our entire conversation today, transcending yourself seems to be at the core of all of it. And that if you want to really be able to create your future, to grab a hold of, your life, and to be able to own your journey and move forward with you making the decisions, with creating the type of experience that you want to experience, is to ask yourself, who am I? And to grab a hold of this concept that you are not your body, you are not your name, you are something so much more. And
Well said.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And to go back to the original question you had of what practices could anyone do right away. The first response I would probably do based on conversation is become your best friend and truly learn about yourself. Um, just hammer the point home that maybe there is different parts of me, and you can think of them as different levels, different frequencies, different vibrations, whatever it is. And you realize that maybe, going back to the beginning, maybe your heart says something, but your head says something different. Maybe your gut says something, but your body says something different. And maybe your emotions want to feel something, but the deeper aspect of yourself is scared of that. So there's so much to the human body. And I was told through a spiritual teacher that the human body is gilded as a learning tool that we're supposed to transcend from. And we're created to basically learn that we are the creators of reality through this incredible body system that can heal itself, that can regenerate itself, that can actually, learn to hold that pain. Going back to the splinter example you said, where it's so beautiful that you don't have to pull that splinter out, that you can, work around it and be okay with the splinter in you, because the body is so absolutely amazing. It can handle so much, so that we can, live this beautiful existence. But we're meant to transcend. We're meant to go deeper and greater, and recognize and realize our truest potential. And we do that by learning about ourselves on the deepest of level, and then becoming our best friends. So what happens after that is you learn what triggers you, and you learn that this is not me. I don't want to be triggered like this. So you go, okay, here's an aspect of self that I'm not in alignment with. Great, I'm aware of it now. Now I can work on, moving it to a different frequency through meditation, through exercise, through positive outlets, like we talked about on I think our first podcast. One of the keys is positive outlets. So you realize, okay, when I do a lot of yoga, I'm not gonna, yell at my significant other. Like, that's a way of understanding self. So you put the everything together to create your web of reality, to say, I'm not this, I'm not that, this helps me with this doesn't help me with that. And you're just building. You're building yourself up to a greater structure of yourself, to a greater construct and a greater reality. So you get to this point that's like, I'm in control, man. Like I can do this, maybe through trial and error, maybe through a profound shift that happens instantaneously in a meditation or breath work or whatever, or maybe it takes a few years. And that's the compassion. So the next thing is cultivate compassion, cultivate empathy, and cultivate higher awareness. You can do that through a myriad of ways. My best thing is you look outside of yourself and you see it in others, because that's where self-love and self-compassion comes from, is when you can empathize and see from other people that potentially are struggling, and realize that you're not alone, for instance, and realize that everyone has their own stuff that they're going through. So sometimes transcending outside yourself and seeing in other people is huge, because it's a mirror effect. Everything's a mirror effect. I've heard in relationships over the years that you start to mirror the other person, and you usually go for the things that you like because they're like you, and you don't like the things that you don't like because you don't like the aspects of yourself as well. So everything is there and meant for you, through signs, through visions, through symbols, through any type of divine frequency that is there to help you be yourself, your best self. So what do? You tap into it. You tap into it, let flow, and go. Flow into the frequency that is your best self.
Beautiful. So if I could break that down, basically, so you had 3 steps in there, and that was one, to allow yourself to know that you are your best friend. So do whatever you need to do to accept that you are your own best friend. And then the second thing is to know yourself, and that's through developing the positive outlets. And then the third step was cultivate compassion. So cultivate compassion for yourself and for others, because others are going through their own kinds of struggles, and being able to feel compassion for that, you realize, that you're not alone in that journey. I think that's really profound, man. Taking those 3 steps right there.
Yeah, I just listened to a podcast the other day too that was talking about this MMA fighter that his whole philosophy in life is, he calls it plus minus equals. He goes, your plus is find somebody that knows something more than you, so you're always getting better. The minus is find somebody that you can help teach and grow, and the equal is find somebody that's equal that you can work together on, and be on the same wavelength and just learn and grow together. So it's always that to add on is just find your tribe. Don't try not to be alone. Anything, especially in the spiritual community, you got to feel connected. You got to have that oxytocin. And synergy happens where 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3, where everything blows up to a different frequency. So you find your mentor, you find somebody that you could mentor, and then you find equal people that are on the same path. Everything just amplifies. So it's like, even meeting you, Nate, like, I've known you forever, but really reconnecting, goes, man, we're on the same wavelength. We're helping each other out. It's beautiful. And did you really, you really consciously think about, hey, Colter and I can help each other or not? You might have just had that thought of, hey, we should do a podcast. Now look at this. Both of us are benefiting, and then the listeners are benefiting. And it becomes this beautiful spiral of just love and compassion and learning and growth. And that's how it works. And that's when you see the beauty and the truth that everything works out.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, if you could see me right now, I have this huge smile because, like, as you were talking, like, you hit a few chords, because it is crazy how things come together like that. The synchronicities when you are searching, when you are seeking, when you're looking for that next step, like, life just opens the doors for you. And you're right, because I felt inspired to reach out to you and say, hey, we should get together. I had no idea that we were going to end up working together like this. So I love that, the plus minus equals. I've never heard that before, but I can definitely see how that is tremendously helpful. Something
Sure.
that Tony Robbins says is, he says, when, and I don't remember exactly how he says it, but I find that this is definitely true because I see it in myself all the time, is that when I am feeling depressed, when I am feeling down, when I'm feeling worthless, when I feel like giving up, it's because all of my thoughts are focused on me, 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 me.
Always. Yep.
Yep. When I know that, and so when I feel like that now, if I can know myself enough and cultivate enough compassion within myself, to be able to think about how can I help somebody else right now? Like, I need to do it right now. If I can find a way to do that, that always pulls me out of the funk much sooner than it would have been. So I see the truth in that.
And that, this topic coming that I'll explain in a sec, it might need a little more clarification on a different podcast. But when you get into self-help and personal development growth, there is a huge amount of pitfalls, and we could talk about a lot of them. And there's some things that I did that, quite honestly, really hurt me. And it was over a decade ago I got into the self-development, and then it became this perfectionism of, I know so much, why can't I figure it out type of thing. And it becomes this, what's the right word? You become obsessed with self in the wrong ways. And so it becomes this judgmental self and this narcissism in a lot of ways of, I want to be better, and then you beat yourself up, for instance. So it's the complete opposite of what we're talking about, of being your best friend. The perfectionism through spiritual perfectionism, or just trying to be a better person, it can be extremely detrimental if done the wrong way. And once again, we could talk about all the pitfalls of it, but that just goes back to the whole compassion of yourself and getting outside yourself to not feel like you need to be this perfect human, this perfect husband or wife or whatever, and just to feel the self-love and compassion. Just goes back to compassion, not to feel perfect.
Yes. Well, and I think that you just led into the perfect next episode. I just made a note of it: pitfalls of self-development. So, and I could definitely say that there is truth in that one. So, I think this is a great place for us to wrap up for today. And in the next episode, guys, we will talk about the pitfalls that most of us face when we dive into the self-development world. Colter, it's been real, man. You dropped some real value bombs today. Everybody that's listening, I hope that before our next episode comes out, you can spend some time meditating, thinking, and creating that knowing inside of yourself that I am my best friend. And Colter, do you have any last words? Yes. You have any last words for the audience?
Love your life.
Love your life.
No matter where you're at, just love it for what it is. Love it for where you're at. Love it for what you could be, what you used to not be, whatever it is. Just love it.
Mic drop. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next episode.